how did you guys come up with the name Garde-Malade?
Yeah, that's a funny question.
Because this is something that people have been asking me on my social media. It's like, what does Garde-Malade means?
Yeah.
And at the same time, they have trouble pronouncing.
Yeah. So for a French person, it's easy because we're not used to it, but it's a word almost everybody heard in the past. Like they were not really nurses. It was more like they were called Garde-Malade. Like Garde-Malade means guardian of the sick.
Hey, Bestie, it's your favorite caffeinated, medicated, and never hydrated nurse. It's Nurse John, and welcome back again to your favorite podcast. I beg your pardon. Bestie, I miss you guys so much. It's been a week. It's been a month. So much things going on in my life right now. A month ago, I moved here in LA, and I'm super happy to be here. There's still a lot of things going on. I'm super happy. There's also ups and downs that I have to deal with. Like, for example, I have to retake my NCLEX in about a month or two because the NCLEX I took was in French, and they were not accepting that NCLEX, so I have to retake it in English so that I can practice here in Los Angeles. But apart from that, life is going on. Things are doing good. I'm so happy to be back. And also the podcast is still going. There's a lot of episodes coming up. So I just want to check up on you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Life is okay. And again, like I told you, if it's not, that's totally fine. We got to keep going. And you just got to remember that there's always another day to make it right. Right, besties? Okay, but before we start, do me a quick favor. If you're listening right now, please download this episode. Check it out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow us, leave us a 5-star review, and make sure you share it to all the besties around the world, your family, friends, co-workers, anyone who could listen to it. Again, this podcast is not specific to just healthcare workers. It's for everyone who needs therapy. Right, bestie? Good. And also, if you're wondering what kind of scrubs I wear, it's Garde-Malade, Gardemalade. And if you want to use my code, it's Nurse John GM, NURSEJOHN They're the only scrubs I wear at work on my skits. They're the most stylish, comfortable scrubs I have ever worn, and they're all the scrubs I wear and my besties. You're probably wondering who is my special guest for today. I was just mentioning Garde-Malade. So guys, actually, one of my guests today, Steve De Petrillo. Hey, Steve.
Hey, John.
How are you?
Good, you?
Good. I'm happy that you're here in LA right now.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming in here. Why are you here in LA other than being with me in the podcast?
We have an event tonight.
Yep.
So we're dropping a new colors. It's the green. So we have this first ever event with all our friends and ambassadors for the brand. And
exactly. Yeah. And I'm super excited because this is your first event to here in Los Angeles.
It is.
Exactly.
It is.
And we're expanding. Tell us more about Garde-Malade. Maybe give a little introduction about yourself, like who you are and how you come up with the whole Garde-Malade company.
So it was about 10 years ago. I had cancer. So I spent like 8 months in hospital getting chemo treatment, radio treatment. So I was with my wife, Mary. She's also a partner in the business. Okay. And we were spending a lot of time in a hospital for the treatment and everything. And she just said, wow, those people are working so hard. It's amazing. They give everything they have each day. But the scrubs, like what about the scrubs, the outfit, the uniforms? So she said there's probably something to do with it. And it took a couple years because the brand is only 4 years old, but we needed time so I could heal from cancer. We had kids and everything, but the idea was always in her mind. And she said, I need to do something about it. So about like 5 years ago, we started to work on the project. Like my dad said, hey guys, I can do something to help. I can produce everything in Montreal because the scrubs are made in Montreal. So he said, now is the time that we start something, and we just...
It just happened.
It just happened.
And so going back to the story, you were saying that you had cancer. What kind of cancer were you talking about?
Yeah, so I had sarcoma in the pelvis region. So it was a 16-centimeter mass. And,
wow, yeah. Was that unexpected, or was it something that was in your family history?
No, that's a good question. Like... When it happens to you, you're like, why me? And you know what? And I didn't know nothing about cancer. Like, what's that? I mean, and in family history, we didn't have cancer. So it was just, I asked the question, what can cause sarcoma. They said usually it's for young kids, like I think 0 to 3 years old.
Okay.
And so they just said it's bad luck. You know?
So that's super weird that you got it. So it
Yeah.
just came about to you.
Yeah. I mean,
So how did you felt about like when you were diagnosed? How did you guys like, okay, I think we should go to the doctor, or like, I think something is wrong with me?
yeah. So it took a couple weeks. I started to feel a bit pain in my upper leg, like when
In
I
your
was
groin,
walking.
groin area? Or?
Yeah, like I
Right,
don't
in
know
the
how
groin.
to
Yeah, the groin
Sorry,
area.
I don't know how to say it in English, but yeah, when I was walking, just a little feeling here. I went to the doctor. He said, "Oh, you're playing hockey. Probably you got injured or something." So that was in August. It was at my birthday. It was getting worse and worse. I remember I was going to the shopping mall and I just couldn't stand. I had to walk, stop every 15 minutes because it was really painful. And I kept going to the doctors and say, look, man, there's something. So we did a radio and stuff like that. He said, I don't know what's going on, but it wasn't extreme, except one day we were in December, like
Right.
5th of December. I remember I was in a bar in Mont-Tremblant and that day I felt like it was terrible, and I said, no, that's it. Like it was a couple months since the beginning, and I said, now there's really something wrong. It was going way worse and worse. So I said, I need to go to the doctor again. So I went back. I said, we need to do something. Like it's
Right.
terrible. So I said, my leg is swollen. Now I could see in his eyes. He said, oh, now there's a big problem. So he took the tape, he measured my leg, and he said, okay, like your leg is really big. He said, go to the private clinic. He said, you need to do an MRI.
MRI, yes.
So he said, go and I think it's an emergency.
So I feel like that's something that's very relatable, like just recently for me when I had that problem with my stomach, because I was like,
Yeah.
I wasn't lactose intolerant. I wasn't anything else. Like I've never had a problem exist for myself. So then for me, it was kind of alarming because something changed in myself. Like, for example, for me, it's my bowel movements. It's just becoming more like frequent. And so I had to go to the doctor because I was like, I have to figure this out. This is not a normal for me. Something is going on. And I was just recently on that situation too. And it's so scary because you're like, what, am I going to die? Like what's going on?
That's it. Like
the feeling of it.
The first couple of months, you don't think you have cancer. It's like, no, it's only other people.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I feel pain, but it's okay. I'm doing some stretches and stuff like that. But when I went for the MRI, I had to be on the back like for half an hour. And after 15 minutes, I told the technician, I said, look, I need to get out of this. The pain I felt at that time, I said, I'm going to die here. Like, you need to get me out of there. And the doctor, like, he said, okay, he saw the mass and he said, I have everything. He didn't tell me. I have everything. You can go and we're going to refund you half of it because it was like $1,600. So
my God.
He said, just don't charge him full price because.
Yeah.
And that was in Christmas Eve or something.
Right.
They called me 2-3 days after. The doctor called me. He said, Steve, come get the results at the clinic and go to the emergency.
You know what? That's kind of like always my fear. It's like waiting for the results.
Oh my.
Taking an exam and waiting for the results. For me, it's like, if we call you, then there's something wrong.
It's bad news.
If we don't call you, everything's good.
Yeah.
But I'm like in between too, because I was like, call me and tell me everything is okay, but don't call me to tell me that something is wrong. What was the feeling that you felt when they called you that time to tell you that you have cancer? Because I feel like that's something that I want to understand, just because when they told that to my grandpa, he did not really had a reaction. Maybe he was older and he did not really care, which Besties, you know my grandpa. He did not care about anything. He's okay. He's like, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die type of thing. But like for you, what was the feeling of like receiving that heavy message during those holidays times too? Were you expecting that nothing is wrong?
Well, I knew something was wrong because I could feel it. Like the pain was
Too much.
extreme. So I knew there was something wrong. I didn't think it was cancer. When they called me and said you have the mass like 16 centimeter, I didn't panic first because I didn't know it was cancer, and they didn't tell me like it's probably cancer. They just say you need to go to the emergency. Say you really feel the pain because emergency.
Right. it takes forever.
Yeah. So I remember I called my dad. I said, because my dad just finished treatment. He was in remission. So he just finished his treatment like a couple months before.
So what did he have?
He had non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Oh, so then Steve, actually, that might be in your genes, because if your dad had
But
it,
don't tell me that. Yeah, I know.
it is.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, yeah.
So if you want me to think or speak scientifically,
Yeah.
though your dad's cancer was not the same thing as yours, if cancer runs in your family,
Yeah.
everyone in the family has to be tested in a certain amount period of time.
Yeah. So
It's like something that I always tell like my patient is that it's important that you find out what your family history is, because it could help you.
yeah, I didn't panic first because I didn't know what was
Yeah.
going on. So I just went to the emergency, and then they started the test, and it was okay because I had time to assimilate everything, like to get the information slowly.
To take it.
So yeah, I was saying is I called my dad and I said, man, they just called me and say I have a mass in my body, and he said, don't panic. I'm probably sure he was panicking, but he said, relax. And then it's step by step. So it's not like, for me, it was not like, hey, you know what? You have cancer. You're probably going to die or something. It was like step by step.
Okay.
So
You take it in slowly.
yeah, slowly. I went to the emergency. They started the test and everything. It's funny because the guy, I did a ultrasound.
Right.
And the guy said, you probably have a lymphoma. And I was explaining my dad also. He said, the other option would be a sarcoma, but you don't want to have a sarcoma. Like it's
Right.
the bad one. So, okay. He said, don't worry. Like there's a lot of treatments and everything. So I slept at the hospital for a couple of days. Then they sent me back home because they needed to transfer me. I was in Saint-Jérôme. They said, you need to go to Montreal because you're going to need a surgery probably.
Like a better hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I did the biopsy and they told me I had a sarcoma. So I said, okay, I don't know what it is, but
You seem so chill about it.
No,
I
was-
would be freaking out.
yeah, and they say you're gonna meet your surgeon and he's gonna explain to you. But he didn't give me that much information. He said, Steve, you have a mass. We're gonna do first chemo, radiotherapy, and then a surgery. The plan is to shrink the mass and remove it after. And that's it. I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. They told me go freeze some sperm because you won't be able to have kids because it was chemo
Right
and the
close to
radio.
your
Yeah.
groin. Yeah.
So
Did you guys have to do it? Did you guys have to like freeze some?
Yeah. So I went because that was the end of January,
And what year was this?
2014.
2014.
Yeah. So it's
okay.
10. It was 10 years ago.
10
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. So I went to do my stuff at the freezing clinic, and
Right.
yeah, I started my treatment right after.
Because I know that you have two girls now, two
Yeah.
beautiful girls. Were they like an IVF babies?
It's not. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not. It was just insemination. Like
Insemination, yes.
no, the big deal. Like, but
Okay.
we didn't try because I did treatment and like
There's a
during
lot
my
of
treatment,
risk.
Mary felt pregnant, so it was really quick.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the day I woke up from my surgery, we knew, like, or the day before, we learned that she was pregnant. So it was in the process, so we couldn't try because of the chemo and everything. Like, you don't want to.
Right.
I don't
so
think
it's like
it's
a
a-
bittersweet knowing that she was pregnant too. at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same
So
time.
yeah, that's the crazy part. It's like I woke up and I knew I would become a dad. I always wanted to be set up, like have my house and everything, money before having kids. And when I learned I had cancer, I told Mary, I said, look, I can't believe I'm going to die and not leaving something here. So it changed everything. I said, I don't need to be rich or whatever to have kids. Like, let's just do it, live my life and see what happens. Like, what's money? We need money to take care of our family and everything.
It's true though, because I realized that too, that you can have as much money in the world, but money, you cannot really bring it when you die. Like
That's
it's
it.
not going to change the fact that you're still going to be buried like everyone else in the same ground. It's so funny though, because as much as we're saying this, like money is not really important, but in this world where we live, money is what runs every single thing.
Yeah.
And-
so there's two sides of it. The thing is, you need money to have fun, to do stuff, whatever, to get a house and everything. So that's okay. But you don't have to wait to be well, it's not even to be rich, to have kids or whatever, or to have money, whatever. It's just like live your life, and whatever's gonna happen. If I knew one day I was getting my business running well and everything. So just trust the process in my case, and don't wait everything to be perfect to start. Like start a business if that's what you want to do.
Right.
Have kids, whatever, and maybe you're going to be poor the first years and everything, but if you really think you're going to do something good, it's going to happen, and that's it. Like,
right, that's it. So then after all of this and you guys realizing for sure you've been in the hospital for so long on those chemotherapy, radiotherapy session and like surgery, so you've noticed that nurses were wearing those like XXL scrubs, right? And I mean, like, that's true though, because I'm pretty sure all the besties can relate to this. In my hospital, we usually get a card and we usually go to that scrub machine, and I hated that so much because the scrubs were way too oversized and they could never give you the proper size for you. So sometimes I would wear like an XXXL. So it's like wearing almost like a blanket on me, and it just doesn't look good. It's comfortable, but it doesn't look good on you.
Yeah.
And I think like as a nurse, already the job doesn't look good because it involves piss, shit, everything. So I feel like physically you want to look good. And at least for me, I care at least how I look when I go to my work, because I want to be presentable. I want my patients to see like, oh, he can take care of himself, because I feel like how you care for yourself is how people will perceive you. Like, okay, he or she takes care of him or herself, then he knows self-love or self-care. And if he knows self-care, then he can take care of somebody else.
Yeah, that's it.
Again, like what you do for yourself is what reflects on the outside too.
If it makes you feel good, like why not? So
that's it. That's it. You and Mary, your wife, decided that you're gonna make a scrub line.
Yeah, we're 3 partners, so my dad is also involved. What happened is Mary came up with this idea of creating something a bit better than what was available at that time. And me, honestly, I don't see that much those kind of things. Like I saw those people working so hard, but Mary is more into fashion, and she's like, oh my God, there's something to do. Me, I was just...
She's very creative. I met her in person.
Yeah, and me, like... During that time, I was like just sitting on my chair, getting my stuff in my veins. And it was like, I didn't care about anything. I just want to survive, and that's it. Yeah, it's a couple years after we just started and did it. Like my dad said, because the problem is you don't know where to start. So how do I create a scrub line? But my dad was in the business, not fashion, but in the
like production side.
Production, yeah. He was doing adapted clothing for seniors in the retired home.
But that's really nice.
Yeah, there was something there. It didn't happen just like that. Like there was a concept and everything. And he said, I can help you doing the production here in Montreal. So we said, let's do it. He knew we could run because I had a business, e-commerce, an underwear brand. So I knew how to run the e-commerce. He knew how to run the production. And Mary was really good, like really creative and customer service.
Okay, so you just combined that all together and come up with Garde-Malade.
We just did it, honestly, like...
And so my next question is, how did you guys come up with the name Garde-Malade?
Yeah, that's a funny question.
Because this is something that people have been asking me on my social media. It's like, what does Garde-Malade means? And at the same time, they have trouble pronouncing.
Yeah. So for a French person, it's easy because we're not used to it, but it's a word almost everybody heard in the past. Like Garde-Malade means guardian of the sick.
Yeah.
Like we used to say that in French, like in the past, like in, I don't know, in the 50s or whatever. So they were not really nurses. It was more like they were called Garde-Malade. So when we started the brand, I wanted something original. I wanted something that people would remember. So that's why we came up with that name, because also my dad used to call nurses Garde-Malade because of course he's older and it was like his generation. So that's why we came up with that name. And I knew that it was something people would remember. And when we started, it was only in Quebec. So people speak French. We said it's easy. And then we started getting traction in English, Canada, and in the US. And people were saying, like, you need to change the name. And I said, no, they're going to remember. and they don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what's funny, and that's what brings
That's what's gonna stick. A lot of brands right now have really basic name. Sure, it's easy for people to pronounce, but I think like I realized too how like Garde-Malade is just so like unique. Like no one heard it. It's like you hear of it and you're like, oh my God. Like, and then when I tell people what the meaning of it is, they're like, oh my God. So it makes sense. It makes sense.
That's it. There's a meaning behind. So yeah, we just did it and say like, let's see how it goes. And I think it was really a really good decision because when we started beginning of 2019, there wasn't that much of other brands, but then we started to see some smaller brands like us starting to pop up everywhere, and it's all the same. But the names, I mean, the brands are all similar, and so I'm really happy that the name is a long name.
It's unique. It's something to remember too, and it actually has meaning of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, like I said, like a lot of brands just come up with like names that they found from like different language, and I'm like, okay, what's the meaning of this? They're like, oh, I just love it.
Yeah, there was a story behind it. We saw a business opportunity, but we didn't really think about it. It's honestly, like, we did it because we wanted to give back to those people, like the healthcare workers. We just did it, and let's do our best and try to bring the best uniform scrubs we can do, and always improve that. Like every day we're getting inspired by you guys and do the best every day. I really love what I'm doing. I'm not even working. Like it's a passion. I'm really happy of where Garde-Malade is going right now.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why, like, when I was starting my social media and I was, I guess, racking up this followers and community and then traction and engagement for people, is that I used to wear like other brands before because I did not heard about Garde-Malade.
Yeah.
And then hearing about Garde-Malade for the very first time from someone in my unit, they were wearing it. They're like, oh, it's actually a Quebec brand. And I was like, oh my God, this is so pretty. Because I used to wear other brands.
Yeah.
And because that's the only thing that was being like talked about before. But then a colleague of mine said like, oh, this is from Garde-Malade and they're a Quebec company, they're Canadian brand. And I was like, oh my God, like I want to check it out. So it was a night shift that I was in. It was actually my 5th shift in a row. And I was on my break at 2 a.m. in the morning. She told me about this brand. And so I looked it up, and it was you guys. And I remember you guys were super small that time.
Yeah.
But the scrubs were so pretty. It's exactly how I wanted and like it. And then so at 2 a.m., instead of sleeping, I reached out to you guys on Instagram. I was like, hey, my name is John, Nurse John. You probably don't know me, but like I have an account. I'm doing content creation. If you guys want to send me scrubs, I would love to promote it. And that's how like, I guess our partnership come about. And from then on, besties, like we are now working together. I'm just so proud. And again, like it's easy to take partnership with every single brand that's out there, but it's hard to build a relationship that's just more than business. Like, for example, my manager, whenever she asked me like, oh, John, do you want to work with this company? I was like, okay, but I have to get to know these people first. For me, it's more than just a transaction situation. And I think you guys have treated me in a way that I felt like it's a family to be part of you guys. And they have supported me in many, many things that I've done. I wanted to do like nursing weeks where I can give back to hospitals and nurses like scrubs or donation and stuff like that. And you guys have supported me, and like you're always so down to just like, oh, you want to do this? Absolutely, we'll be part of it. And I think that's what matters. I tell them I'm not just partner with them because they're Canadian, which first of all makes me proud because it's Canadian brand. But second of all, I'm happy to be with them because they make me feel like I'm a content creator, but secondly, a human being.
Yeah, not just a ad panel. Like
exactly.
It's the same for us. Like it's really important that we just don't pay to get an advertisement. We need to do something that makes sense. Like it's not just pay, get out there and sell scrubs. Like we need to do better. And that's why the relation lasts for, it's been like 3-4 years now since the beginning.
I know it's been so long.
Yeah. And the timing was perfect. Like you were at your beginning, I think.
Beginning.
And for us, everything just like timing was everything.
That's why I'm so happy you guys trust me. I was like, oh my God, they trusted me.
Yeah,
I was
but
like,
for us also, like we were just beginning. It's crazy because I had this business for 10 years before this underwear brand, and I had a dream, like I want to do something, like not just make money, just something that would make me feel proud and everything. And when we came up with Garde-Malade, you came up at the same time, and that's all the pain I had in the past. It came at this exact moment, and everything, like I said, okay, that's what I was looking for. I had experience in my other stuff, and now it's happening. Right. Probably like you had this idea of something, and then the timing, and so you help us, we help you, and here we are now. It's crazy. Like
that's it. And
we're
like,
so proud. Honestly, I'm
really proud of where you guys been, because I've seen it through like the months, the years of like working together, and it makes me proud and seeing like, oh my God, like Garde-Malade is being worn. Not just in Quebec where we're from, but like everywhere else. And like when people tag me and they're like, oh, we're wearing like a Garde-Malade, it makes me proud too.
It's scary for us to think that we're in LA right now doing this podcast, selling scrubs here. Like it's weird because we're French Canadian, and we're like a bit separate from the rest of Canada. No, but we need to say it. And the States for us, it's like it's a big world. It's scary. Like me just coming to LA, driving the traffic, I'm like, oh my God, it's a different world. So I'm getting used to it, and I'm really happy to be here. We're from Mirabel, like Quebec. No like one knows.
So Steve is talking about this really small, like it's almost like countryside of Montreal, Quebec, and like it's so small that he thinks that where he came from is where he's gonna be staying, but now he's branching out to different places. And I think like
amazing.
Going back to this is because like, as you were saying, like it's kind of like scary going out there, I guess, out of your comfort zone of like Quebec or in Canada, and going out the United States and even like other places.
That's what we're doing. Like we're just doing it. And a thing I like about you is you're pushing us, because that's what you did. You know, I'm not used to go out there and do some crazy stuff, but now you're saying, hey guys, you need to do this. And that's really important for us. We're doing it, even if sometimes, like you said, we're getting out of our comfort zone, but we need to do it. And what I meant by scary also, it's like we're against like huge brands with ton of money, and we're like, okay, how are we gonna survive in that game of being the top scrub company versus
from the other ones?
Yeah, and we know those, especially in the US, like it's so big, but we're just doing everything we can.
I think it's the authenticity, because it's the same thing as for me, right? Because there are other people out there who's doing the same exact thing as I am, but I just never compare myself to them, because
that's important.
The people who follows me, the people who trust me, my community knows who I am and what I am as a person.
Yeah.
And if I just focus on me, then there's nothing for me to be scared about, because the people who actually knows me would just keep following me and supporting me. And it shows.
They
just like
follow
Garde-Malade.
You for who you are. Yeah.
Exactly. Just like
it.
Garde-Malade. Like you guys are your own brand. You guys are a unique brand. Yes, there are other scrub companies out there that are bigger, that's probably more talked about, like for example in the USA, but you know what, Garde-Malade is Garde-Malade.
Yeah, and we're happy.
It's the uniqueness of the company.
Yeah, that's it.
And who's representing it. And now there's so many content creators who's representing it, who are proud to wear it every single day.
Yeah.
And that's what matters.
Good.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for that amazing introduction of Garde-Malade. And I think like that's what a lot of my listeners who's listening right now, my besties, wanted to know. And knowing that a company was built from like beautiful, kind of like bittersweet story of like you being in worse health and then coming back out of it and learning something from it while you're in the hospital, and thinking about the people that took care of you while you're in the hospital. And you're like, you know what? I want to do something for these people, because that's something that nurses don't really get. Like people thinking about us and like
Yeah,
being grateful that we're there helping them 24/7.
That's crazy. That's something I want to say. Like, I saw what you guys are doing, honestly, and I know I'm probably speaking to nurses now, but it's true. Like all the effort and that you give, and I couldn't do that. It's how do you do that? Like it's every day helping people. It must be like really.
It is tiring, but it's a passion that
probably
a lot
gives
of us
you back
feels.
because you help people.
Like I always tell to my besties is that I feel like, again, and this is just for me, I feel like nursing is a calling. Like you don't just go to this profession and thinking like, oh, I just want to make money, because there's no money in nursing. But at the same time, you go to this profession because you're like, I want to help people. I want to change someone's life. I want to be part of someone's healing. And though like there are a million things out there to be scared about being a nurse, like what I always tell them is do it if it's a passion for you. Just like what you guys did. You're like, I don't know how to start a scrub company, but I want to do it because I have a passion to change something for the healthcare workers, for the nurses who gave the care for me during those tough times in my situation. So yeah, amazing. And besties, I hope you guys learn a lot from Steve, our guest for today. And again, like the Garde-Malade became my family and always will be my family. And I am just so proud to be part of them. And again, for anyone who is wanting to work with brands and creators and stuff like that, again, my always advice is to make sure that companies or brands take care of you more than just a creator, like a business situation. You want to feel that you're included. You want to feel that these brands put time and effort and listens to you as a creator, because you are the star. You are the person who brings in all this attention, engagement, and that's how I feel. I feel like a star being part of the Garde-Malade family, because they listen to me. They take in all the ideas I have in my head, even sometimes like the craziest idea. Like I would literally leave them an email at 2 a.m. in the morning. I was like, Steve, I think like we should do this because this is so amazing. And they're like, John, when is this? I was like, next week. And they're like, okay, let's see if we can make this happen next week. And then they make it happen. And it makes you feel good because they're like, okay, well, they're trying to put an effort and to give you that time that you need to make you feel that way. And I think that's our episode for today. And again, if you ever want to get scrubs, the scrubs that is authentic, that has a story in it, that has a meaning into it, and something that I care for, it's Garde-Malade. It's Gardemalade. And I hope you guys have listened to it and know the story of Garde-Malade. It means caretaker of the sick. So there's a meaning into it. Thank you so much, Steve, for being here with me in my podcast.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure.
And it is a pleasure to have you here. And thank you, Bestie, for listening to another episode of your favorite podcast. And if you can do me a favor, please share this episode. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And Bestie, I am going to see you again for the next episode of your favorite caffeinated, medicated, and never hydrated Nurse John, in your favorite podcast. I beg your pardon. Bye, besties.